Welcome to a Leader's Journey podcast. I'm Joel Gunn, your host, and I am so super excited to have my wife, Christina Gunn, on the show today. Most podcasters would say it's a really bad idea to have your spouse on the show.
So how do you feel about that?
I love it.
Okay, good.
And I love you, so
that works.
It'll be fun. We hadn't actually had you on the show in almost 2 years, year and a half for sure. So it's exciting to have you back. You were telling me just before the show that you were having a meeting with somebody this morning, and y'all got to talking about something I know it's been near and dear to your heart for a long time, but certainly been on your radar again recently. So unpack that for us.
Well, we were talking about mentorship. We were sharing stories of our kids and how certain kids have certain leadership abilities and certain kids, are more followers. And so we were just talking about that. And she said that how the teachers would say, hey, your son has got leadership potential and your son should do this and your son is a leader. And then all of a sudden it shifted to your son is more like the leader of the group. He shouldn't be doing this. And he shouldn't be saying that. He should be more the leader. And so we were talking about this, and I was like, isn't it interesting how people they put a title on you or a label on you, but then they expect you to live up to something they've never been taught to do. And so as we were unpacking that in our discussion, I've noticed over a period of time that with generations that are coming up behind us, it's like, we expect them, well, you lived in our house, you should know this, or you heard this before, or you sit at the same church I do, or you are under the same leadership I am. I don't understand why you're not doing this. And I think there's a disconnect between this is what is expected, this is what's said, this is the label, this is the title, and application. They don't know how to apply what they've been told this is. And so and being okay with training people to like, oh, you've not been in this position before. You've not had this title of leadership before. You're the head of your class. This is your first time. And, sometimes people can take a label or a title and be prideful with it and run with it. And it's not done well. But if we mentor people, if we disciple people in the church world or mentor people in the work world, I feel like there'll be a better flow of how things are applied to these titles that are put upon us.
When you say mentor, how do you picture or define or understand being a mentor versus being a mentee? What's the mentor's role in mentoring? What do they do? What's that?
Well, I've watched like the good old Rocky movies. I've watched, something like that. It's like, hey, you want to be the champion, we have to discipline ourselves and do this. If you want to be a great reader, you have to discipline yourself and read. If you want to be a great athlete or great, whatever that greatness is, you have to discipline yourself. So as the mentor person or the person that is taking this role, it's like giving some practical steps for the person to achieve the label that's been put upon them or the title that's been given to them. So showing them, and if nothing else, bring them along with you. I'm in this role because I did X, Y, Z. And then you show them, okay, next time you do X, Y, Z and see how it's received. It didn't go so well. Okay, why? Let's unpack why that didn't go so well. Maybe we need to change the way we say something. Maybe we need to change our approach. Maybe they just don't know who you are yet. So there's consistency in mentorship. It's not a one and done. It's a journey that you take with the person.
You find yourself in some mentor roles throughout your adult life. Did you have mentors as a younger person?
No. And I think
most people I meet say that.
No, and that's I think my dad would have been a great one, but he unfortunately didn't get to live long enough to show me more stuff. One of the things I loved about his story was he had tons of obstacles and he learned to overcome them. And he wasn't growing up in the church. He grew up on the streets. He wasn't growing up in a business environment. He grew up in hard, dysfunctional families. So I think we have an opportunity to overcome our obstacles that's thrown in front of us Like I have had many things in front of me and I've had now real mentorship. I can contribute a lot of the things that I've been exposed to you. I think there's been a lot of opportunities that you've brought me alongside you in your growth of leadership and business that I'm like, oh, and the light bulb starts going on. And I reflect back of what I heard my dad say, and then I come forward into today's world and go, I can see where this connects. And I can see where there's a void in today's society with the younger generation or even older generations, that there's nobody there to walk this journey with them.
Mm-hmm. One of the people that I consider a mentor, and I've said this on my podcast, I've had him on my podcast, he's had me on his podcast, is Doug Carlberg. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting about our story is in corporate life, he was a couple of layers up from where I was in the org chart. And I say he's a mentor, and not so much that we ever spent one-on-one time together, or even at a few occasions we were at a dinner together, with, I think the smallest crowd might have been 15 people. Mm-hmm. Never sat by him or interacted with him much. But one of the things he made sure of was I was in the right place at the right time with the right people. Mm-hmm. So he put me on teams. He sent me to training, leadership training, team building training, self-awareness of, reflecting on who I am, how I'm wired, and what my strengths and weaknesses are. Ethics training, manager training, all kinds of, he invested heavily in my training beyond just college, right? And so actually in the last 3 years or so, we spent more time together than we did in the 12 years I worked for him, mm-hmm. and helped him spin off a business unit, and still didn't interact with him much. But I still consider him a mentor in my life because he made sure that the right opportunities were available to me. And I still had to earn, so to speak, those opportunities. I still had to reach for them. I still had to embrace them. But he saw me as good soil. So that's a type of mentor. Mm-hmm. That's mostly what I've grown up around. Mm-hmm. It's just people that saw that I deserved a chance. Mm-hmm. What you're describing is more, I think what you're describing is more of the mentor that's involved in your life. That's, and I've never had that kind of mentor other than my parents. And my grandpa on my mom's side, there was a short season where that happened as when I was a child. But I've never had what I think of as the classic mentor. Jesus being the ultimate example, mm-hmm. right? He actually lived with his disciples, right. His mentees. They actually did life together. Right. The hard times, the good times, the mm-hmm. crowds, ready to throw stones and stone them all to death, to seeing, him walk on water and all those kinds of things. So I think those are in my mind, those are the two kind of extremes of mentorship. The one that just makes sure you're given opportunity, and the other that literally lives with you. I don't think we do this anymore, or very rarely. Certainly in the United States, that's not a common practice. How do you see mentorship in that?
Well, as a mentor, I believe there's some sacrifice of your personal time. There's going to be, you have to weigh in, how much time is this going to take from me and my family, or me and my life, and is it worth it? You have to, and if you can't answer that question, then you probably should step back and reevaluate. Hey, this is going to cost me. And I liked your, bringing in the Lord Jesus into the subject, because he was all in. He was all in. There was no second guessing. There wasn't, I'm going to sleep with you in the tents, and I'm going to eat with you by the fires, and I'm going to go into the cities with you. And that's pretty extreme to today's culture. And then mentorship today is kind of like, you have to get into their personal life in some ways to be able to bring them into the light of what they're called to do or what they're leading. And so as you have been a C12 chair now for almost 10 years, you would have to tap into their personal life as you were coaching them and into their business. So it's a little bit of both. And I think as mentors, we have to get in both areas. So you have to find a balance that doesn't consume you, because once there's a person that has labeled you, hey, you're it, you're my mentor, you have to make sure that you have healthy boundaries, but also your heart has to be in a position to say, hey, it's not me, actually. Let me show you someone else that's actually a better person to follow, and that's the Lord. So making sure it's not about you as the mentor or the teacher or the trainer. It's you guiding them in areas that you grew in, and you can see some stumbling blocks in front of them that you actually stumbled yourself in, and go, I can save you this stumble if you just hold on just a second and let me show you how to go around it.
I love the way you describe that. Now it's got me wondering, can a boss be a mentor?
I believe they can.
Because we encourage most, I don't know that it's written, but certainly growing up in corporate life, you didn't talk about religion, politics, and very little about your personal life. But if you look at military, those elite forces, they trust each other with
their
everything,
life.
Right? And they know the personal stuff. So how do you stay the boss but offer to mentor somebody?
That's tricky, because I'm currently over 30 some people myself in the role that I'm playing with Marketplace Chaplains as an ADO, and I found myself befriending too much, like going too much, and then when it gets to the point of having to make hard calls as the boss, those are kind of gray areas. It's like, wait, I got to take 10 steps backwards now because so that's why I said in the beginning, create some healthy boundaries, where mentorship is about leading people, coming alongside people, not dragging people and having them in your backyard all the time. Like, you have to guide yourself too. You're guiding yourself as you're mentoring someone else, because you can allow yourself to go to some heavy conversations or expect certain expectations from this person that they're not ready to do yet. Because you like a military person was like, get up, George, get up, Sue, get up, run. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. We're kind of in that role of get up, dust yourself off, as the board says, let's try again, and so it is a balancing act, even on yourself, monitoring yourself as you mentor other people. You
said something a moment ago about, forget the exact words you used, but mentorship is sacrificial.
It is.
And so if you're mentoring somebody to, for your own, self-enhancement, or for your own self-promotion, or for your own look at me, then it's probably not a healthy situation. If there's not some level of sacrifice, then it may not be true mentorship. How do you, let's say somebody's had this on their heart to be a mentor. In your understanding of that word and that definition of what that looks like, how do they get started? Like, do you just walk up to somebody and go, hey, let me be your mentor? Or
no. What I found recently, and this has only been recent, is when I become more prepared to expand in that area, I've been put in opportunities to just talk with a person, and then I hear the person's story, and then I respond to the story, or I talk to the story, and the person feels heard, and then I can see this dialogue coming back and forth. We're like, can I call you sometime, because I really need to process a little bit more? Sure. Yeah, or can we have lunch sometime and we can talk about this a little bit more and unpack this a little bit more? So as it's evolving in my own life with other people, I'm seeing, I'm not forcing this. I'm not promoting me as a coach. I'm not promoting me as a mentor. I'm not promoting me as a call. I'm saying, stop and listen. I'm available. It's up to you now. And then I've had those people reach back out and say, what you said the other day really rang in my heart or my spirit or whatever that looks like for them. I need to unpack this a little bit more. What would you say about having lunch? And then I let it organically grow. And the more things we can allow organically to grow, the more real it actually becomes. Instead of, this is my 10-step to this, and this is my 5 steps to this. And when you get to this level, I'm not saying there's not structure behind that could work. And maybe in the future, as we evolve in what that mentorship looks like, that it would become more structured. But in the beginning, it has to become an organic relationship.
Yeah, and I think that's important to point out is it seems like the heart of the mentor is willing to walk life with you. And you and I have a couple that's done that very well with us the last few years. And it's super cool, but sometimes it's still a little weird. But it's just like, because they've got life and they've got stuff they're growing their businesses and families to take care of and nonprofits to take care of and on board of directors. So there's a super hectic schedule, but yet we know at a drop of a hat they would take our call. And so it's trying to embrace that.
Allowing someone to help you.
Yeah, and trying to honor too, not wasting their time, so to speak. But what's made the difference for me, and I think you believe the same and feel the same, is we know they have a heart that they actually care about the details of our life. Right. And they're not going to just go get you off the phone or, and so we sense that they actually care. Right. And I think that's important in a mentor relationship. Is that there's a sense of this person mentoring me actually cares about who I am and cares about who I'm becoming. Yeah,
we saw the movie Forged, last year around this August timeframe, and that hit home as far as that business owner took an interest into this young kid's life, and he was rough at the beginning, and he failed many times, but that owner didn't give up because he knew if he could just get him past the hard stuff and start doing some stuff in his life and helping him, come alongside him and just come here and be accountable to somebody, that it would change. It would change his way of thinking. It would change his paradigm shift. It would historical. How it doesn't matter how he was raised or what side of the tracks he was raised from, something would change. And that's what I think we should be looking for, is transformation in someone's life. And that only comes by walking that journey with somebody to help them what that looks like.
Is there a time commitment that a mentor has to make? Like, I'm going to give them 15 minutes a week, or...
I think you would... Again, if you're monitoring yourself, you know what your bandwidth is. But I think you'd be careful not to limit yourself when it actually comes to mentoring them. I would put some healthy boundaries in place so that they don't consume your time or day, because that is important for you and your mental state and emotional state, so that you are aware of respecting people's time. I actually am able to sit with a leadership team right now in a company that, and I've allocated a certain amount of time to them, and I'm very respectful of their time. And it literally, when that time ends, they get up and walk away, and I'm like, okay, goodbye. So I guess we're done. And so, but I realized that I've closed the book. I've closed the situation. We've finished what we were there to do. And they literally are done, and I'm done, and so we respect each other's time.
That tends to happen, I think, probably more in the business setting, right? Because we're used to meetings and time slots and honoring time commitments. And I remember we had a small group at our house years ago, and we had said it starts at, I forget, 6:30 and ends at 8, or starts at 7 and ends at 8:30, whatever it was. And I looked down at my watch, and it was, let's say it was ending at 8:30. I looked down at my watch, and it's 8:29, and people are just talking. And I said, well, everybody, thanks for coming out. Have a great evening. We're officially dismissed. And you kind of looked at me like that was kind of rude and abrupt. And
well, not just that, you walked into the other room and shut the door, and I was like, goodbye, guys. And it was just like,
I came back out, but the point I was trying to make was like it was over. Yeah. And what we didn't realize was there was a CEO in the room whose habit was to get up at 4 a.m. or 3:30 a.m. and do his workout, do his quiet time, and he's in the office by 5:30 or 6.
Yeah.
And he told his wife as they were coming, he's like, I don't even want to be here. But if they go a minute past 8:30, that's just not going to work for me.
Right.
And so a super great guy.
Right.
I mean, we're still friends and still, connect and chat on LinkedIn and reach out and text every once in a while. And it's been years, a wonderful human being, but he's like, there's time set aside for this, and I'm making time for this in my life.
Right.
And so I do think healthy boundaries are important. And, obviously life happens. Your mentee may end up in the hospital, and that's going to be disruptive, but that's something that if you're really valuing that mentee-mentor relationship as the mentor, you need to let that interruption happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Because life does happen and snags happen. What is hard too in today's society is that because maybe a situation has arisen with personal life or children or an unexpected meeting or an event happens, you don't want to keep chasing the opportunity to meet again. So to be accountable to each other and saying, okay, well, we missed today, and that's okay, and everything's great, and let's connect, this time next week or 2 weeks from now, what that looks like, so that you are not chasing it, and it's feeling more like it's an agreement between the two of you.
As you look at the opportunities you have to mentor, what are you processing as the mentor? What are you checking your heart? What are you praying about? What are you paying attention to?
Oh, well, we've been introduced to the Abide Ministries back in 2017, and I didn't think, well, this is just another Bible study, but what it has helped me do is reflect on my time and reflect on me and reflect on what I'm processing with the Lord, and actually, spending time caring for myself, caring for my mental state, my emotional state, my physical state, because we're a whole person, right? At the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're present. And if you are preoccupied with something else or something else in your own personal life, it's hard to mentor someone else because you have a lot of baggage, a lot of stuff going on. So I've been trying to make sure that I'm in a good headspace mentally, emotionally, and spiritually when I take on a task to talk to somebody about stuff.
There's a lot of things I appreciate about you, but one is you genuinely care for people. And you don't let the fact that you're not perfect keep you from loving them or mentoring them or caring for them. And so I just want to use that as encouragement as we wrap up is, if somebody's like, well, I wouldn't be a great mentor, but I kind of want to feel like maybe I should be, but I'm not perfect yet, or I still got my own issues, or was recently listening to a TED Talk by a gentleman that had been an addict, and he's, not done drugs or had a drink in almost 2 decades, leads a company, now coaches other leaders of other big name brand companies. And one of the things that he reminded me of in his TED Talk was it's not about perfection. It's not about having arrived. And in fact, in the AA circles, usually the sponsor is somebody that's just a little further than you are.
Right.
And so we don't have to be God's gift to mankind before we can mentor.
That's right.
We just got to be a little further than those that were
That's right.
than our mentees. And so, any final thoughts as we wrap up?
Yeah, you don't have to have arrived or have a certification to mentor. I mean, the Bible clearly says, go make disciples. He knew all those men that were following him they messed up many times even while following him. And so, but he wouldn't have given them the charge. He wouldn't have given them the charge if he knew had arrived and they were perfect. He said, go. I release you to go. So I encourage those that are thinking about, been on the fence about mentoring or discipling people, just jump. It's a leap of faith in general. And are they going to see your imperfections? Yes. Are they going to hear your stories of overcoming big obstacles in your own life? Yes. But that's part of your testimony. And that's part of your story to share with them that, hey, I was able to overcome this and do this. That means you can too. And so the biggest thing is helping them overcome those obstacles they feel. So I just encourage anybody that's thinking coaching, mentoring, just jump, go.
That's good. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's fun.
Yeah, love you.
Love you too.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of A Leader's Journey podcast. If you enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up and remember to subscribe to our channel.